To each their own and a bag of chips is a phrase I usually like to use, and film fandom and geeky things, any kind of fandom, is all largely subjective. I don't ever sort of judge anybody by the things that they're into, even if I'm not into it. I'm not into the Twilight films. I haven't thus far gotten into Harry Potter. I don't dismiss people who are into those things as much as I might be a Doctor Who or Star Trek, things like that. And but sometimes it does get irksome how people may judge Disney films. I'm an all-time, lifelong, Disney film fan, and sometimes people sort of react to that in a derogatory fashion, like, oh, those are so fake, oh, they're unrealistic, oh, they're fantasy, they're too childlike, there isn't much depth to them, and all these kinds of things. And I think they are chiefly overlooking, this is kind of the same argument I hear from people who don't get into anime and don't understand what anime is, and how broad in its range and how much depth and characterization and sort of adult themes anime can represent. Some anime are as good or better than some of the most popular dramas on TV, whether that be, like a Law and Order or like The Walking Dead and all these kinds of things. They can have much more, story aesthetics and deep and engaging aesthetics, pathos-laden stories, fanciful ones though they may be. But it's like with the Disney films especially, I seem to hear, and especially lately, people sort of like, oh, those Disney movies, and in a mock fashion that just kind of gets under my skin a little bit, because I think what is being completely offhandedly, not even considered, is the work that goes into the production of these things, especially the classic where it was all hand animated, frame by frame, sheet by sheet, hand painted, and still shots, still frames taken, and just the years and the months of production and everything to tell a fantasy story. Granted, maybe it has more to do with the happily ever after aesthetic, and people, that's why people like The Empire Strikes Back over Return of the Jedi, because it's more like real life and all those kinds of things. And I'm not saying you're anything lesser for thinking that or for having that opinion, but to me personally, why can't it be the best of both worlds? Why does there have to be this dismissive quality on Disney films? I talk about the Disney princess films being films that I greatly enjoy. And it's the sword and sorcery aspect. It's the process of the animation for a large chunk of my life before I started steering myself more toward writing and things like that. Drawing and cartoonist sort of work, those kinds of things. Animation were my passions, and I thought that's what I wanted to do with my life. And so I began really delving into looking in depth at the processes of making these films. And I mean, when I say I am a Disney fan, and my favorite film is Aladdin, but Sleeping Beauty is right up there, and all these kinds of things, Pinocchio, I watch these movies, and I'm not just watching them for the semi-simplistic story, the good versus bad, good versus evil, happily ever after in the end. There's much more to the process in my watching it. I watch every frame, and I am eagle-eyeing and putting under the microscope the backgrounds and the way the characters are animated and how they're drawn. And I look into the pre-production when they were actually rotoscoping physical actors and finding the voice for these characters, how they were going to approach adapting stories even into the sort of 90s Renaissance, where you had Hercules, The Little Mermaid, and Lion King, and these just grandiose epic stories. And so it kind of defies my imagination when somebody is very pithy about it and Disney movies, who's going to be into that, or the type of person you have to be, very dumb or simplistic in mind to have to be into those kind of films. And I understand it's not everyone's cup of tea. There are things that aren't my cup of tea. Rarely do I find myself derogatorily referencing those things without it being maybe like a jab toward a Twilight movie every once in a while. I don't bang on and on and on about it, and I never find myself, pointing toward a sort of judgment of somebody who likes whatever that thing is. I haven't thus far gotten into the Hunger Games. I am not immediately attracted to it. It does seem semi-interesting, but for all of those fans who flock to it and are absolutely absorbed into it, I never once have said, well, you know what, because I don't get it, I don't like it, and kind of people like that, you know. I don't get it. I don't get that mentality, especially as somebody who is, as I say, a Disney film fan, and running into people who just kind of have that dismissive quality, like there's something lesser. You're something lesser for liking whatever the thing is you like. And it goes back to what I've always said, and I say repeatedly, and every now and then I'll make posts on Facebook regarding this. Like whatever the hell you damn well like. You know, live for yourself. Be true to yourself and what makes you happy, because in the wink of an eye, you're going to be dead. And whatever amount of time you have in this living, waking world should be surrounded by not sadness, not depression, not depressiveness, not anger, not rage. You know, I mean, there are things that definitely, because we're human, motivate those emotions, but they shouldn't be dwelled on. They shouldn't be your every waking aspect. And even in fandoms, even in, the things that you enjoy, music, films, whatever, animation, live action, television shows, whatever it happens to be, video games, just be true to whatever makes you happy. And don't give, frankly, a shit about people telling you, you're anything lesser for it.